What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Just back from the Allentown Pin Fest this past weekend. Had a great time. Took the multi-bingo up there as well as my beloved nightclub. Sold the nightclub to a first-time bingo owner. Very excited that is in new hands and being played and enjoyed. It actually made the trip up to Canada from Richmond, and it traveled pretty well. It did develop a small problem, which was diagnosed and fixed relatively quickly, so that was good. And other than that, let's talk about the multi-bingo. So, the multi made the trip up with me, and my friend Joe came as well. He helped me load and unload, and Rod, who bought the nightclub, helped me to set up the multi and bring it into PinFest, for which I am eternally grateful. It's always a challenge getting games into a show, and especially one with an awkwardly sized head, like a bingo. So, set the game up, and one of the leg plates stripped out inside. The bolt must have been cross-threaded or something, or it was just that plate's time to go. It didn't completely disintegrate, but a couple of threads got broken off of the leg plate, so that was a little exciting at first. Got that sorted out and got the machine set up, and people came up and started playing it. It held up very well. I did introduce a bug in red letter games, which we'll get into in a moment, but I'd made a lot of code improvements over the past couple of months, and those worked very well indeed. The most popular games by far were the Miss America series, especially the later ones, and six cards. There are a lot of six-card players up in Pennsylvania. A lot of people that are familiar with the six cards because that's what was out on location. It was interesting to me that nobody chose a United game to play. Every game that was chosen was Bally. That said, lots of new folks playing the bingo. Some familiar faces from York. Jim Holder made the trip, and he brought me a big old bag of Jones plugs. Thank you, Jim, for that. And Bingo Butch and Mike Lauda came down and brought me a playfield for United ABC, which I've been looking for the past couple years here. So that's very exciting. That is one of the roulette playfields for the multi. So I'm going to get that fitted and wired up and all that good stuff. It's considerably shorter than a standard bingo playfield, and it's got a pop bumper in the center, which of course has a bracket that extends down quite a bit further than other playfields, which are similar. So it's going to take a little bit of tweaking to get that into the game, but I'll see what I can do. I'm hopeful that it will fit with little modification, and I'll just add an extension bracket or something on the back of it so that it can fit in place. But we shall see. It may end up that it needs to hover a little bit higher than the Bally playfield, just because of the coil bracket that hangs down. But again, we'll see what happens. The shutter mechanism on that is really interesting. It's motorized, just like, I guess you'd say, just like the Bally's, except instead of having multiple cams that change the state of multiple switches, there's 3 different banks of a single switch each, and depending on the state of the shutter, it will open or close those. Ingenious little mechanism. It is just a single shaft which drives movement of this bottom platter to open or close the pathway for the balls to fall. And of course the balls that are used are 1 1/16, so I've got to figure out a way to make that work as well. That shouldn't be the end of the world. Especially with 5 balls only, that should be doable. If there were more than 5, it might be trouble. During the show, as I mentioned, I had lots of new folks come up and try their first bingo. I had a lot of compliments on the game. That's always extremely flattering. And I got to meet Nick Shell from Nick's North American Pinball Tour. He was the guy who traveled around the country in Canada, actually, fixing people's EMs and showing people how to fix them. Noble enterprise. And now he works at the Roanoke Pinball Museum, which is just several hours away from me. So I'm looking forward to stopping in there at some point. I hear they have a Bally Dixieland, so get that rolling and see how that does. Dixieland's a great game, and that was one of the most popular games at Allentown that people wanted to play. It was always very fun to show people the games and then get their reaction when they learned that there were 142 games total in the machine. So let's talk about red letter games. Shortly before York, I figured out a problem with red letter lifting. So the lifting worked fine previously, but there was a problem if you had actually won a red letter game with the game awarding you extra balls. The extra balls wouldn't lift. And that's because the lifter check happened before a ball count reset. And so the ball count would reset after the first ball was lifted, which caused a problem, like an order of operations type thing. And that was causing the ball count to increment 1 extra time rather than 1 fewer. And that was a little tricky to track down, but I got it and fixed that in all the OK games. Unfortunately, it broke extra ball lifting for every single game with the OK feature. And when it happened the first time, I realized exactly what I had done. And stupidly, I only tested the lifting on red letter extra balls, which of course works perfectly, but not regular extra balls. So I've got a little tweaking to do. I just have to insert one more check lifter status. That's the name of the method. And then everything will be just fine. Unfortunately, I did not do that before the show because I didn't know that was a problem. But it's on my to-do list now, and I'll make sure that gets done before York. Speaking of things before York, I've got several other tweaks and fixes that I'd love to make. Foremost among them is finishing the coin flash animations for all the games. I am tantalizingly close, with only a few left to do. And then the United games, almost all of them, utilize the same pattern, so it'll just be figuring out the undocumented portions of those patterns. Thankfully, somebody has taken some video of a United Havana recently, and that coin flash animation is going to tell me exactly what I need to know about how those games are animated. Havana is one of the Series 2, or the mid-series United games, and that same flash pattern applies to all of those mid-series United games. So thankfully, I should be able to use that and figure out what I'm doing. Other things I'd like to fix, Phil Hooper just documented spotlights, mixers, and spotting disc, and most importantly, the spotting disc. Right now, in the multi, I have funky approximations of what exactly that will do. It's very funky, in fact. So I'm looking forward to getting that accurate. both from a feature award perspective as well as lamp flash. And a big thanks to Phil Hooper for doing that. And other improvements, I've got a list of open bugs on the GitHub project for the bingos. And there's not a whole heck of a lot. There are a few bugs that were documented at Allentown. Another one has to do with lifters. On the 6 cards, and this is, again, for some stupid reason, because, well, let me back up. Last year before York, I realized there was a problem with the lifter methods that I had. And each game's lifter method is subtly and slightly different. Different trough switches need to be checked at different intervals, depending on how many balls there are within the game. So, essentially the 6 cards have a particular pattern, unless it's Frolics with extra balls, and the rest of the games tend to have another pattern, unless they're very early games, in which case it's just slightly different, but you get the picture. There's essentially 2 ways of doing it, and I fixed the non-6 card games to work in one particular way, which was a lot more accurate. Check the trough switches as well as the ball count, but I did not do the same for the 6 cards. This is a bit of a fatal flaw, because as the balls are returned to you, the thing that I have that decrements the ball count is actually the leftmost trough switch, trough number 8. And all the balls roll over trough number 8, but it's a very important switch. If all the other trough switches are closed and trough number 8 is hit, then the lifter starts lifting. Well, that's all well and good. The ball count increments when the ball leaves the gate. That's totally fine. But if a ball is returning back to the trough and you don't notice, then there's a problem, because the ball count will decrement as it's being incremented, and so you wind up with 1 extra ball. That's an annoying problem. And one that is only cured by waiting for all the balls to settle before shooting the first ball. Now you might ask, why is that a problem? You should have 8 trough switches, right? Well, that's not exactly the way the trough is laid out. There are only a handful of switches in there, and some of them it just doesn't care about. Most of the ones that actually have any importance are much further into the trough. Positions 1, 2, and 3 specifically, because those tell you the positions of your extra balls in a game with extra balls. Some of the later games have different trough design. For example, the double up that I had an extra trough switch, and that helped with various features that had to do with selecting which score was doubled before shooting your second ball. Because of that, they needed to add an extra trough switch right beside trough number 8, but normally that's not the case. So, at any rate, an annoying bug. But if I port over the method from the rest of the games and just modify it slightly so that it only allows 5 to lift, then we should be golden. Why I didn't do that before, I really have no clue. I thought I had done that for all the games, but apparently not. Frolics, I know, received a lot of attention, but I left games like Dixieland, for example, to languish. So I'll get that fixed up before York as well. So that's my plans for the multi before York. Now, for the bad news. I have a lot of projects that I'm working on here, and I love working on them. Unfortunately, my work, which is normally the impediment to me getting to Allentown at all, has picked up an insane amount this year. It's a good problem to have, but unfortunately, it prevents me from working on the multi at night because I'm working on work at night. So that is going to be the situation for the next month or two, I believe, maybe slightly longer, just because I've got a rather large workload at the moment. But I will see what can be done. In other positive news, at Allentown I got to meet a Canadian contributor to the multi. That was extremely exciting. I wasn't expecting to meet him. And super nice guy. We got to talk shop for a couple minutes. And I look forward to speaking with him some more. He contributed the Super Wall Street glass to the multi. And as it turned out, he paged through the list of games and picked out a couple of his other glasses, which I had cribbed from bingo.cdyn.com and didn't realize they were his. So the upshot of that is that I asked if he would mind providing some higher res pictures for me, and he plans to do just that. That will be fantastic, as the pictures that I had in there are upscaled and a little blurry. So that should make all the difference, and it was great to meet him. Other Allentown news, I saw Chad and Len and Ed there. It was great to see those guys. Always wonderful to see them at York, and it was great to see them at Allentown as well. Len gave a great tutorial on the machine at one point to a friend of his, and Chad spoke with him briefly about getting a video of the coin flash animation for Beach Club. That's going to be extremely helpful for me to verify my thought about Beach Club, which is that the spotting disc layout for coin flash is going to be very similar to hi-fi. Maybe not exactly the same, but it's almost got to be very similar, because the actual feature spotting layout on the spotting disc is very similar to hi-fi, and the features that the game has are very similar. The only difference is that bump feature that hi-fi has, and the bump feature might displace some of the other features in the spotting disc for coin flash. That said, I don't remember if bump even flashes at all during the coin flash. It may not, and if that's the case, I'm probably pretty safe to implement as hi-fi has, but we will see. A little video will make all the difference. So I'm looking forward to all those contributions, and another fellow named John just sent me a backlash photo for Bull Market. This is the game which is rumored to have only been made for export, and I know there's a couple of glasses floating around, but this is the first domestic glass that I got a nice photo of, so I'll be able to replace kind of the rough title header on Bull Market with this nice one that John sent me a photo of. So thank you, John. And thank you to everybody who came and played the game and gave me those wonderful head-swelling compliments. All that is extremely appreciated. But of course, the whole idea is just to get this out and get the word out about these games. I mean, they are fantastic, fantastic games. And there is much more to them than being a simple gambling device. There's skill involved with playing the games. They're beautiful, and they're just a lot of fun to play, I think. A game with constantly shifting goals and different abilities to change what you're shooting for dynamically. It's just all very impressive to me, and that's some of what I love about the games. But I also love sharing the games. And got to meet the folks from Rage Tilt Pinball. They were there streaming the tournament, but there's some great supporters from New York as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing them there. Just tons of great folks. My friend Taylor Reese came up. He took one of my favorite pictures from the show of a young boy playing the game and learning how to win, and he did a great job. So, thank you again to everybody who helped, everybody who came and played, everybody who wished they could have been there. All that stuff makes a big difference to me, so I very much appreciate it. Thank you. And with that, let's transition to the year of Flipperless. Today's game is United's 1946 Sea Breeze. Sea Breeze has a multi-sequence game in that there are 12 bumpers which you're trying to unlight by hitting them. And these bumpers, when you complete various parts of the sequence, will light special at various lanes. So, to describe how that works, we've got to describe the playfield. So, bumpers number 1 and 2 are aligned vertically right at the top of the playfield, underneath where the ball arch is, where the ball travels as it's shot out of the lane. Number 3 and 4 are on the extreme left and right side of the playfield, right underneath that. Below and to the center of those are 2 green bumpers, which score 5,000 points when lit. Below and to the center again, we have bumper number 5, and fanned out a little bit from the extreme edges, you have 6 and 7 below that. Now, below 5, by about 1.5 inches or maybe 2 inches, is a post. And flanking that post is an open space about the width of a ball, and to the left and right of that are a post that is the shape of a flipper bat, a 2-inch flipper bat. So that will guide the ball or bounce the ball away from this area. There's a rollover switch in there which will award 5,000 points as well as unlight numbers 5 through 8 or 9 through 12, depending on if you're on the left or right side. If those sequences are already complete, then it awards a special. And to the left and right of number 6 and 7, you also have rollovers, which award 5,000 points. Or, if you've completed the entire sequence, 1 through 12, will light for special. Down below those little flippers that guide the ball through the lanes on the left and right side of that post in the center are 8 and 9. And below that in the center is number 10. 11 and 12 are on the far left and right side of the playfield down by the drain. But below number 10, there is a special insert, and it lights when bumpers 1 through 12 are hit, and it lights for super special. If super special is not lit, then you get 5,000 points for landing in a kickout hole down near the bottom. Otherwise, if you hit super special, you're going to win a certain number of replays. What that number is unspecified on the IPDB. However, that's going to be adjustable by the operator. It's usually something like 5 replays or more, depending. So I'd be interested to see what people who own this game have their super special replays set at. But let's talk about the artwork. The artwork on this game is very intriguing. It's a mixture of colors, which is pretty interesting, I think. Very colorful backglass, rainbow pattern, and the rainbow, instead of being in a circle or a semicircle, as one might expect. It's in this weird trapezoid type arrangement. And within the trapezoid, there is an inset image of a man and a woman riding in a boat. And the title United Sea Breeze is featured prominently in there. Arrayed around this little inset image are the numbers 1 through 12 in circles. Each of these numbers has a corresponding color. So 1 is red, for example, and 12 is red. 2 is orange, and 11 is orange, and so on. Those colors have absolutely nothing to do with the sequence. They're just eye candy, basically. And then outside of this trapezoid and these circles is the same image of two people. But looking at it closely, it's not quite the same. There are subtle differences. This is intriguing to me because somebody took the time to actually reproduce the artwork in a way which is extremely similar. It's a man and a woman standing on a dock or a pier, and man is smoking a pipe, and the woman is standing there holding his arm, and they're just looking out into the ocean or the bay or the river, or I guess the sea, right? It's sea breeze. And they're looking at the sailboats, which are sailing on by. It's a really cool scene. The colors on the back glass are really eye-catching. It's quite appealing to look at. Let's talk about the cabinet. The cabinet has a paint scheme which is very reminiscent of Bally's Bikini Bingo. You've got a sailboat which is sailing on the ocean on the front of the game, and on the sides you've got seagulls and a steering wheel, as well as another rendition of a sailboat. Just a very attractive stencil. Looking at the playfield, as is typical for the time, you've got kind of these solid fields of color, in this case blue, beautiful red artwork which ties into the blue and draws your eye to the rollover switches which award special or the 5,000 points. One thing that I didn't mention, looking at this picture here, is that there is a rollover switch at the top center above those green 5,000 point bumpers. And that rollover switch, when you appear to unlight numbers 1 through 4, that rollover will light for special. Otherwise, it scores 5,000 points. So the other artwork on this is surrounding that area up near the top. You have some waves that are coming out from that rollover switch, and there are sailboats and seagulls flying above, along with the sun in the background. Very attractive. Around those green 5,000 point bumpers, you have this purple kind of curly Q, which is coming out and feeds into a red and yellow circle at the end. Very neat. Down at the bottom, you have an awful lot of artwork. Of course, that's where your eyes are going to be drawn when you're standing there. You have these flags which would fly on a sailboat, which arrayed themselves beside number 11 and 12 down at the extreme corners at the bottom. And you have the super special hole, which has a red, white, and blue kind of stars and stripes motif. Very appealing game. Looks very attractive. I'm very interested to play. The bumper layout for the sequence looks pretty challenging, and I really like these games that have multiple sequences within. So you've got an overarching goal, unlight 1 through 12, but if you only accomplish a fraction of it, you can still manage to squeak out a replay or two. That is pretty exciting to me. So, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. And again, if you made it to Allentown, I know it was a whirlwind. I was only there Saturday, but I appreciate it very much, and I look forward to seeing you all at York. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line, which is 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to me on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Pocket Casts via RSS. On Facebook, you can follow me on Twitter at Bingo Podcast, also on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.